Well, hi everybody again, and welcome to another edition of Coffee with Craig. I'm your host, Craig Hamilton Parker, a psychic medium. And if you've not been to the show before, this is where we talk about all things that are going on in the world, all the topical stuff, and try to get some psychic insights on it, look at it from a spiritual perspective, and give some predictions. And today, it's going to be led by you quite a lot, actually, because this is a live show we're doing today. And it means you can ask your questions, and quite a few of you are coming in already, have a few questions lined up, which I've starred and I can bookmark. So it's always a good idea to get into the show early if you get a notification. And I've also going to put some of the questions up that have been brought in already by some of the YouTube members, because you can join up as a member, and from some of the patrons. All those details are in the description below if you want to join up in the future, get early notifications, and also be able to ask me questions in advance. So some of the topics I know we're going to talk about today will be Trump's big beautiful bill, for example, Elon Musk and DOGE and what's going on with all that area, what's going on in New York with Zoran Mamdani, if I've got his name correct. I've got a few other things on the list here about what's going on in the UK with the London mayors and reform and things like that. And Keir Starmer, BRICS, we might be able to get around to talk about some of the things about the Ukraine war and all sorts of things like that. And of course, it's a wild show because other things will pop up as well. And since it's quite a longish show today, I may also later on repost some of these, break it up a bit, and do some more in-depth ones on each of the topics one at a time. We can do that as separate lives, so keep an eye on the show, do follow us, and that way you might be able to join in again with some of these similar topics we can perhaps do next week if we get a chance. Okay, so welcome to the show, welcome to Coffee with Craig. Well, hi again, and thanks for joining the show. As I say, there'll be quite an interesting one today because we might be going off in all sorts of directions. I see some of you already coming in here saying hellos. So let's let a few. Whoops, where are we? Where's the hellos? Good day. So that's obviously in Australia. Love you, Craig. That's obviously a fan. And good afternoon from Germany. And also, you can get this in German as well if you listen now, because they auto translate some of the voices as well. Another good day I see down there. And some of your questions coming in, and best wishes to you all. Thank you very much. Thank you for becoming a member. Right, okie doke. The problem part of the problem comes actually when we do these live is sometimes it's a lot of you all pile in at once, and so when we get moving we'll have to sort of it might be a bit difficult catching all your questions and clicking on the right stuff. So good of you to come in, guys. Thank you for joining me again. Now, if you're here for the first time, please, obviously everybody asks you to do this, but do subscribe and do remember to get the notification bell in the bottom of the screen, because if you click the little bell, you'll get notifications when we're going live, and you'll get advance warning of it too if I put it up. But sometimes I go live very fast. And please always give these shows a thumbs up, because it helps the algorithm and it means the reach of the show goes a bit further. So if you do enjoy the show, it's always how much does it take time to just click the thumbs up button? It makes a big difference. Right, let's have a look. Now, I've got some of your live questions going in, but like I said, I'm we've got patrons on the site, and with the patrons, I ask people if they got any questions in advance, and we've had a few interesting ones come in. And also, if you're a YouTube member as well, all of it's in the description, but you can also ask me questions in advance, and sometimes we can discuss these things in more detail if you post me questions on the patrons or the YouTube comments on the members columns. So, okay, well, thanks for all of you who have been supporting the site. And now let's just have a look at some of the first questions. Right, let's go through. I've got a few, and we'll take some more live questions in a minute as well. So the first question up is, what have we got? Will Trump's big, beautiful bill succeed or fail? Okay, that was one that's quite on a lot of minds, particularly of our American guests. But it does raise quite a few interesting other questions as well about this. Now, obviously, it doesn't affect my tax. Well, not at the moment, not unless I get tariffs on psychics. But according to the big, beautiful bill, as it were, it's caused a lot of rumpus, hasn't it? Particularly with Elon Musk. And people say, over there, they're saying that it favors the rich and cuts in, is it Medicare you have over there, and food stamps and things like that are problematic for some people. And then others are saying, oh, well, it helps people. It helps people who rely on tips, for example, or people who are over 65, or people who have dependents, and sometimes it also helps homeowners. So like anything, we've got the same problems here in the UK about tax. Tax is becoming a huge problem over here because we've got a socialist, I would call it Marxist government at the moment, and they're going to have to put taxes up. I don't take a psychic to tell you that taxes are going to go up. They are. Everybody knows that. But it's also how we tax people fuels the economy of each country. So to answer your question on that one, I think in the short term, this will work. Actually, I know there's a lot of rumpus about this, and I'd like to hear your comments, because it does deliver on Trump's top priorities. That is things like I suppose tax relief, corporate incentives, and he actually did promise it during his campaigns. So I think in short term it'll work, but longer term, no. I predict that however well it does now, in the long term it will fail. And it will have to be completely changed, a complete revamp I see for it, because I feel there's going to be a bit of a backlash, particularly over the welfare cuts, and there's lots of legal hurdles ahead. Now, if you saw me earlier videos on 2025, I said that America's going to be more and more entwined in legal hassles and legal debates and legal arguments, and I see there's a lot of that ahead, and I think we're going to start seeing more and more of that as we go to the latter part of 2025. So by the time 2028 comes, regarding his big beautiful bill, I think we're going to see something completely different. I think it's going to completely change, complete overhaul. It'll be a vote loser, basically. Elon Musk's attitude to this, of course, he hates it. He hates it to the core because it increases debt, he believes, and it also destroys millions of jobs, in Musk's opinion. And has caused the major rumpus, of course, in American society. So the bill is fundamentally at odds with what he believes. He believes in balancing budgets, doesn't he, in future industries, energy policies, and I don't know it all, but the bill basically strips away some of the things he believes in, and particularly electric vehicles and things like that, and tax incentives for that, which Musk obviously hurts Tesla a lot. We'll go on to Musk in a minute. So will it succeed or fail? To answer it, it will succeed in the short term but fail in the long term, and it has to change ultimately. Okay, so that's what I feel on that one. Not one for the UK audience here, but we try to cater for everybody where we can. We'll stick to America for a minute more, because another interesting one that's come in here, I think that's quite interesting. Do you think Elon Musk regrets his involvement in launching DOGE? Now, from the UK, watching all this happening, it's been a fascinating thing to watch, really, because like us and like most European countries, we are all saddled with loads and loads of quangos and problems like that. I mean, Farage is saying he's going to destroy the quangos soon. We're going to get an announcement soon from Farage to say how he's going to destroy the quangos. Obviously, a very hot topic in everybody's politics at the moment, because the quangos are destroying so much money going down the drain on all sorts of crazy things. And I still see rainbow flags flying over government buildings sometimes when I drive around, and I think, well, is the sponsorship for these crazy ideas, you know? Anyway, so I'm with this. So I predicted some while ago that Musk and Trump would fall out, and it's happened. And I also said at the time that they would patch things up. Now, that hasn't happened clearly at the moment, but I still think there's plenty of time to do this. And I think things will cool down between Musk and Trump, and they could form an alliance again. It does seem pretty unlikely at the moment, but my feeling is I get a sense that they're going to come back together again. You see, I suppose they call it like psychic reading a person, really, because my reading of Musk is that he's a man who I suppose does not completely harbor regrets. I mean, he's got a lot of bad stuff gone on in his past and things like that. But in a way, he's escaping the past by driving himself into the future. That's part of his mindset. I don't know what you think. I'd be interested in your comments on Musk, because he's an interesting personality. But I think he's too driven. He's driven into the future. And actually, Trump is very similar in many ways. That they're both kind of completely focused on the future. They're focused on what concerns them immediately in many ways, what helps achieve their goals now. So they're driving forward and they're not looking back, which is a very focused and sometimes perhaps a dangerous attitude to take in life, but it certainly brings you a lot of success. And so I think Musk, actually, when you think about Musk, I think he saw Trump as a bit of a father figure. Because if you look at his life, he had a terrible childhood, terrible problems with his father, and I think and there's a lot of this goes on. Freud would have said a lot about this, and you could even say it about Harry and Meghan. Harry sees Meghan as a mother figure in many ways, and you think about the psychology behind that. But Musk and his father has a very delicate emotional ground there. It's very brittle, perhaps where many people would fear to tread, because I'd imagine it's huge emotional ground for him there. And then to see a father figure turn against you, to see it destroyed, brings back all that emotional turmoil from his past. So I think there's a lot of that in the man's mind there, and in his spirit, and what drives him. Both characters, Musk and Trump, will destroy people if they're in their way, if need be. But not necessarily waste time, I think, destroying people who are not an immediate threat to them. You know, I said I didn't see Trump seeking revenge. And although he is going for a few people, I think those are people that not necessarily that from the past. He's more interested in getting rid of anybody that could threaten him now. He clears the ground very much as a politician. And I think in business, Musk is very similar. That's why the two of them on one level get on very well indeed. So will these two people destroy each other? I mean, they're two huge egos. They seem to be at the point of destroying each other, threatening to form new parties and so forth. I just don't think Musk's new way, his new party, will ever succeed. You can't replace the Democrats just like that. I mean, Farage is doing it here in the UK. I mean, we've had a major shake-up. I think it would be too steep a mountain to climb to bring a third party in. It could be possible, but I can't see it. I can't really see it succeeding. I don't see him as like that. I can't see Musk with a successful third party. And that's why I think they will ultimately patch things up, because those are both people who will do deals with the devil if they need to, in many ways. Then they'll do deals with each other, even if they add fallouts, because they've got mutual things where they can help each other. And from Musk's point of view, the Mars mission is vitally important. From a propaganda point of view, from Trump, the idea of a Mars mission would be very powerful thing pull a nation together, just like Kennedy did. And also the AI wars and the satellite networks and things like that. All the things are very important that the two of them do work together for the security of the world. So I see them bringing it back together ultimately. And I see Musk, though, nonetheless, investing much more in smaller political pressure groups, but to great effect, in fact, both in the USA and abroad, actually, and also here in the UK too, and in Europe. I feel he'll have his influence in a different way, where money can talk and money can buy the voice of people. So that's my feeling where it goes now. So to fully get back to your question, did Elon Musk regret his involvement in launching Doge? No, I don't think he has regrets like that. He's not a man that holds regrets. He moves forward, like I say, in this direction all the time. Forget about the past, move to the future, move to the future. He carries a lot of baggage emotionally from the past. But I think when it comes to business deals and political things, he doesn't. Okay, so that's some of my thoughts on that. Now, you also this was an interesting one. Again, we're sticking with the American stuff for the moment. And this is quite interesting too, because we've got this weird thing going on in New York. I see it as pretty weird, but we've got it here in London as well. Could Zoran Mamdani become New York's next mayor? Is he the US version of Sajid Khan? Now, those who don't know who Sajid Khan is in America, he's our mayor of London, who, in my opinion, dislikes this country, dislikes everything it stands for, and is to me he just seems like a smarmy, horrible person. That the camera went, God censored me there, but you missed all that. But someone that I feel is in many respects the most inappropriate person to be running London, and in many respects, and he's way over the left, Sajid Khan, and exactly the same problem you're going to have with Zoran Mamdani, because I see him. I actually do see he will become mayor of New York. I predict he will become. I predict that Zoran Mamdani will become the mayor of New York, and he is actually the front runner at the moment with these things. So it's probably quite likely to happen too. So my psychic insights are not as deep as you might say, really. I mean, if he's the favorite, then he's the favorite. But no, but my feelings with it are he gives me a feeling of being a very odd sort of character, really. I don't think he's a very good candidate for this whatsoever. My feeling that he's kind of an empty vessel in many ways. He certainly has had many empty promises that he's making to people, it strikes me, promising this and promising that, promising money for this and promising money for that, money that's actually not physically able to be used for those purposes. So don't they all do it, these politicians? False, empty promises. And then when they get in, you suddenly think to yourself, my God, what have we let through the door? Listen, America, have a good study of British politics and see what happens when you really do start voting in people on the far left. Far more dangerous than letting people in on the far right in some ways, I think. I mean, it's become chaotic here in the UK, and we're teetering on the edge of chaos, I think. But just like Pocahontas, wasn't it, that Trump called Warren? He doesn't have the actual heritage that he claims to have. He claims to had African American heritage, which always seems to suit when it suits. But suddenly we find out that he doesn't seem to have those claims. Am I right with that? I'm not sure if I've heard it right with that, but it sounds like false promises all round. So what have we got here? My feeling is we have a hollow vessel. We have another fake. He's coming under the banners of, inclusiveness and looking out for the underdog. But I think things are going very badly. you, America, listen, you are losing New York in the same way that the UK is losing London. You know, on your heads be it if you elect a Muslim communist into power. We've had that in London, and it don't normally work out very well. So those are my first thoughts with that. Now, I'm just going to pause from some of those comments and just have a look what some of you have been saying about this, actually. So I'm just coming to your live comments now to see what you have to say, and see if you agree with me on what I'm saying there. What you guys, let's have a look, see if I just want to see just your comments at the moment rather than questions on that. Few of you saying stuff. Few if you've got a few thoughts there, just quite interesting to see. Yeah, so you're talking to yourselves between each other, so I can't grab your comments quite like I would like to there. But okay, it's quite good to try to keep not to. Okay, I'll just go back to my settings here. Where am I? I've got to remove that one. Okay, let's have a look at some of your other questions coming in. So actually, when you're doing the live, guys, it's quite important that you don't chat quite so much between yourselves, because I can't grab your comments and grab your questions. That's why in some respects it's probably best to seed some of the questions first off through the patrons pages or through the YouTube members pages. But yeah, I do like to open up to everybody so you get a chance to ask questions. So you need to make your questions nice and clear, even perhaps put the word question in front if you want to catch my attention, because then I can see that. Okay, the next question. This was again sent in to me in advance, which I think is quite true. You said that a Reform candidate will become the London mayor. Can you expand on this? Someone said, right, okay. Well, it follows on a bit from that New York question, really, doesn't it? And you see, I think at the moment it's completely inconceivable, because Sajid Khan is pretty much well embedded into London at the moment. But there's quite a long time, I think, between the next election for Lord Mayor of London. I think the next one's in May 2028, I think it would be. So it's a fair old distance yet. So, but I think the mood of the nation between now and the next election of Lord Mayor is going to change quite a lot. And I think things in a few years' time are going to be very different in London. Currently, the idea of a Reform candidate is kind of a bit of an impossibility. But I've seen London falling into deeper and deeper chaos, you know. I see crime will increase massively, and crime is terrible at the moment there. I mean, we're honouring at the moment our police force and the bravery of the police force, particularly those in London. And there's medals being passed out, for example, and things like this at the moment. But you know, and I think very good on them, brave men, to go into some of these dreadful battles and fights, and also having their hands so tied because they dare not arrest people. They've got to be so politically aware before they can arrest someone that says, they can arrest people that say one thing, but can't arrest people that say something else. We have in the UK, we're calling it two-tier justice, two-tier legal system. And this is a major problem. And I think, you know, you think we have imported terror into our countries. The sort of things we're hearing going on in London and with the police, the things that police are having to deal with at the moment. And if you know any police, and I know quite a few police from London, when you talk to them, the things they tell you is they just feel completely unable to act when they need to act. They're terrified to do anything. They're just sort of like, they have to kind of go along with things that you would just not expect. And meanwhile, we're importing into our world, and everybody coming into the country illegally heads first to London, and London has become swamped with people from overseas, to the point that the original Londoners, as it were, have completely been pushed out, and they're leaving the city. and we don't have our own people there anymore. You know, it's become a situation where I think it's become out of control, because a lot of these people coming in are coming from countries that are war torn, from, you know, and they different values completely that cannot be integrated into our country. So I think the mood in London will change, even though the normal, what we would normally have thought as London, is sort of completely been pushed out now, you know. And I see there could be a backlash against this, because a lot of the people who have settled in London, well, particularly the Indian populations, I find they become good British citizens, and they like the law and order, and there's great many people are really contributing to the society. But we've also got this undercurrent of people really who shouldn't be with us, and I think people are going to really, and we're already seeing a huge swing to reform. And I said that would happen. You look back by videos going back quite some years now, and I said this would happen. You look back to my predictions about Nigel Farage, that he would become prime minister 3 or 4 years ago. I was saying this, and it's happening. You look at these debates that are going on at the moment between Keir Starmer and the French. How would Le Pen and Farage have sorted things out? What sort of ideas would they come up with to stop the boats? You know, but my thoughts are that there are some potential candidates there, and there is one woman, Laila Cunningham, who's coming to who wants to get involved in this, and she's voiced an interest in becoming the next mayor of London, and she seems a very sensible person that I think would appeal to many people, and would appeal to many Londoners who are sick and tired of seeing their city fall into anarchy. She's a mother of 7. She's been speaking out a lot about crime in the capital, and I feel she stands a very good chance of becoming the next Lord Mayor of London. So there's a prediction for you for a little bit further ahead, but I feel Laila Cunningham will be the next Lord Mayor of London. And meanwhile, I think Elon Musk's going to get involved with this, but I don't think he's going to fund her. I think he will fund someone. I get the sense he may fund Ant Middleton, who is a bit more of a radical candidate, but I feel that there's going to be some stuff going on with that. But I think Laila Cunningham will be the one that will eventually become the Lord Mayor of London. So there's my thoughts with that. Okay, let's go on to the next one, because we've got a few more coming in. Let's just have a look at your live ones coming in again. If any comments on that particular topic, if I can catch them now, I'll catch them, but rather than interact with each other, post it straight away, please, and then I can see it. Let's have a look. No comments on that. Okay. All right. Okay. We'll move on to the next one that's been sent in advance, because I think these are interesting, some of these. And we'll see what other ones you've got. Okay. I mean, these have been, I've selected the ones that have come up the most. We've had quite a few questions. People ask about their own countries, of course. They ask about New Zealand and Canada and Australia and Germany and so forth. But I tend to try to get the ones that affect most people, and that's mainly, certainly, we're a UK channel, so UK ones, and also American stuff and things like that, and world wars and things like that. So the next one we've got in here is, will Keir Starmer stop the boats before the next UK election? Now, that's a big question, isn't it? Because even today, as Keir Starmer's talking to Emmanuel Macron, we've got exactly the same issue still going on. Hundreds were allowed to cross the channel today before the agreement was even signed. And, you know, when I look at this, I think the French are pushing out the boats quickly. We saw one excellent scene where they punctured one of the boats. Well, you know, just one of the coppers went up to the French police went up and punctured one of the boats. Problem solved. They couldn't launch the boat. So why have they been standing back? Because it's in France's interest. They don't want these people just as much as Britain doesn't want these people. And and so Macron's team are saying, yes, we'll take your money and we'll say we'll do this. We'll stop the gangs. Yes, we'll smash the gangs. Of course we will. And then they do nothing about it. And I think what we're getting now is a load of hot air and bluster as well, because the problem's not going to go away. I don't foresee it going away whatsoever. I just feel the problems in Europe with immigration are going to go up and up and up and up and up. And some of this was foreseen a long time ago by Nostradamus, some of the interpretations of Nostradamus, and often you have to, it's who interprets it. But there was that French writer, I can't remember her name now, long while back, right back in the 70s. Gosh, gone. Senior moment, who foresaw huge fluxes of people coming in the underbelly of Europe, they said, up through Italy, and particularly, and that Europe would be invaded through its underbelly, it said. And that's how they interpreted it. And this is going back in the 70s. This interpretations were made of Nostradamus. It kind of stuck in my mind too. And I feel that we have been invaded. Whatever way you look at it, we've been invaded by people, frankly, who've become the enemy within. Now, these are all people, many have integrated, and brilliant for that. But we've also got people who are here with no work, no prospects, no training in European cultural values, want to stand as a separate society. And frankly, I just don't think the people of Europe are prepared to tolerate it anymore, because it's undermining the society. And we're not allowed to say that at the moment. Now, Macron, he's just as keen as anybody else to clear France of these problematic people, frankly. And he did have a very good point, though. And I don't know what you think about this, if I'm right. I don't want to sound extreme with this, because obviously you don't want any harm to come to any peoples. And I do understand that these people are desperate sometimes, but a large number of them are just seekers of fortune. They're just looking for an easy answer. You get free houses if you come to Britain. You get free welfare, you get free hospital treatment, you get free dentistry, even though British people can't get dental work for free now. You get all these free things, and you're going to bounce. How can you blame them? I mean, if I was one of them, I'd do exactly the same thing. But it won't work, because the problem is the countries that are trying to sustain all this collapse. And Macron had a major point he made that I have to agree with him on this one. He pointed out that you can't stop migration so long as you keep giving these welfare incentives to people. The French also have ID cards. Now, it seemed everybody in the UK seemed to think it was abhorrent to have ID cards when they tried to put it through a few parliaments ago, because this would be such an intrusion on personal freedoms and things. and how far would it go? How much would go onto these ID cards? But frankly, our personal information is Google, YouTube, all of them have more information about us than we have, or any government has, and they manipulate and use our information all the time, and we give it away freely. Limited information on our ID card, if it could stop the migration problem and stop the downfall of the society and stop the imploding of the society, if it alone could stop the black economy, that would work. I think it's a price worth paying now, and I think many people would think this. What do you think? Is this a slippery slope to state control, or is it a possible solution? Because I think it's as simple as that. We can't give people houses. We can't give them welfare. We can't let them have welfare payments and then at the same time be able to go and work for Deliveroo and those type of companies. And they could, and some say they can earn up to £500 a week cash on some learner bike that they go along and dropping off food. And we're all to blame, ordering rubbish food all the time. I mean, if we put a stop to all that, we say, oh, where are we going to get our delivery drivers? Well, we'd managed before. We used to actually have to walk down to get our takeaway food. And we became less dependent on takeaway food, the very thing that's also undermining society because it's making us all fat. So, and completely unhealthy. So Macron had a point there. And I think, but will he do anything about it? Like I said, if it was different people, if Farage was now our prime minister in the UK and Le Pen was the prime minister or the president, or whatever it would be in France, and they did a deal, I think there'd be a bit more straight talking and less fluff. And actually, Macron can't probably do half the things he's talking about here because he's got to have approval from everybody else on the Committee of Europe. So we saw this mess a long while back, didn't we? And we're seeing a lot of mess at the moment with the way that Labour can't even handle cutting the welfare overpayments and deal with the bills we can't afford paying people to sit at home. So I can't see Labour having the courage to push through the necessary reforms needed to make this work. So I'm afraid we're stuck with it. So he's not going to stop the boats, is he? And my prediction is that migration will have to come on an even bigger scale before this is addressed. It's still coming, and I feel migration's not going to get any better by the time of the next election. In fact, it will get worse and worse and worse, and they won't have the courage to pass through the necessary reforms that are needed. They don't have the courage to fix it. And today we're like I said, we're praising our police officers, and yet at the same time, we're creating a third world country with third world style crimes. Who ever heard of people being knifed in Knightsbridge and people being knifed in places of London or the streets of our towns and cities in the UK? It was unheard of, and now it's everywhere. And just on this political topic of the British stuff, another prediction for you. I predict that Suella Braverman will move to Reform. And another prediction, I predict that Liz Truss will also move to Reform. And I see these things happening quite soon. It might be in the press quite soon. Right. We're covering a lot today. But another one that I've been asked about. Okay, so I've got a couple more, and we'll get some of the others here. BRICS. Okay. Interesting question, and I thought this was a good one brought in. I think this was a patron that asked this one. And I think you're online now, actually, as I'm talking, actually, because I think I saw you there in the comments, the person that asked this one. Sure, I saw you there early on because I recognized your thingy there. So, okay, right, I'm yapping here. All right. So, is BRICS challenging the US dollar's status as the world's reserve currency? Now, BRICS has obviously become quite a powerful force at the moment. I mean, the countries in BRICS are getting together, and they have, enormous currencies behind it, particularly with China, particularly with the power of Russia, India in it, and everything. I mean, it's a very powerful potential force. And many people are saying that they think this whole BRICS idea will collapse the Western financial system in many respects. But I feel the opposite to that. I can't see that happening. I feel, but here we go. I predict that India will leave BRICS. And I predict that India will leave BRICS soon. And this will cause consternation. And there's much, but then something else is going along that's going to affect this. And and I believe this is happening at the moment as we speak. I sense that there's really is a lot going on in China right now that they're not telling us about, that's been covered up. Now, there's a lot more. China keeps everything secret. They never give us the true figures of what their economy's truly like. They never tell us what's going on in their politics. They're very, very secretive with what is allowed to be known by their own people or by the world at large, of course. But I get the feeling that Xi Jinping is absolutely holding on by his fingertips at the moment in China. It's been like that for a while. But I really feel that right now, as I'm talking now in July 2025, that I feel that there's a real silent revolution happening now in China. And it's happening as we speak. It's something we may hear about quite soon. And Xi Jinping will soon be replaced by, unfortunately, another monster. But in due course, in the fullness of time, the people of China are going to take action against this, and we will see things dramatically change in China. Economic things make huge differences in the world. The true effect of the trade war that's going on between China and America is only just beginning to get its claws in. And do you remember in my 2025 predictions how much I said that the key to everything that goes on in 2025 is going to be all around this idea of rare earth metals? Did you hear about rare earth metals in 2025? I just felt that rare earth metals were the weak point, were the Achilles heel of what Trump wanted to do, because the rare earth metals are necessary. We don't know what half of them are. We couldn't name the elements. We couldn't know what they do, but they fuel batteries, and they fuel, even more importantly, our iPhones and our computers and our AI technology, and everything like that is dependent on that. And there are rare earth metals elsewhere in the world, but China has enough dirty industries to be able to process all that without public complaint. If you built a rare earth metals mine or processing plant just down the road from us here in the south of England, there'll be absolute havoc to play because of the potential disruption it would do to the environment. So we've always been more than happy to let China throw all its filth into the air, and we'll have all the benefits of it, such as our cheap iPhones and the rest of it. But now when it comes to it, we're beginning to see the price it costs to have these things. So will Europe, will America, will the world have time to catch up, not so much just on the mining of rare earth metals, but also the manufacturing and the refinement of them? This is going to be a big thing. And it's going to be one reason we're going to want to go to the moon, and one more reason we're going to want to go to the asteroids, because those are places where mining could take place quite easily, a bit like the film Moon, if you remember it, where they harvest it off the surface. There's lots there that could fuel our industries. So there's another thought. So let's have another look at some of your comments again. Any comments, guys? Because now you're tending, because there's so many of you in now, it becomes a lot more difficult. Okay, I missed them. I hit the wrong ones all the time. Yeah, okay, there's quite a lot of interesting bits there from you there. Okay, I'll come back to some proper comments from you later on. Okay, so let's go back and let's just get the last topics. And I know a lot of you want to ask about Epstein too, because I see you putting questions up about that, and we'll look at that in a minute actually as well, because that's something that I think is quite interesting, and we'll address that one in a minute. So I have got an eye on what you're saying. Well, that's quite interesting. Okay, so you're on topic. Thank you. Can you talk about Xi Jinping's successor? Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't feel that it's going. Oh God, hang on. Missed you. Okay, sorry, you're going up so fast. It's hard to catch any of you. So, all right, yeah, Xi Jinping's successor. We're talking about. So I can't get this one off the screen because I've got to click. Right. Okay. Yeah, Xi Jinping's successor, I feel, is somebody who is. It feels just as bad as we got rid of the old boss and we got the new boss. I'm not seeing here somebody coming in with a mind to reform and changing the system. I'm seeing the old guard stepping in still. I'm seeing a harder line replacement to Xi Jinping, which is a great shame, because I feel that China can go the whole way if it can introduce proper democracy and proper voting and actually respect its people rather than have them live in fear sometimes. I mean, they can't just keep closing your eyes to some of the things that go on with the Uyghur people and with the Tibet and with their own people being suppressed and the control of the money system and the control of cash and the rest of it. But I don't see a democratic minded person coming in that's going to do a Nelson Mandela. No, it's not going to be that, sadly. But I do feel that in time, the Chinese people will change things completely. Now, I have spoken about this before in other videos, how I feel that China will ultimately break up into smaller countries, smaller cantons again, as it was once in the past. And it will be the making of China, I feel. Okay, so let's have a look at the next questions come up from the patrons and you guys. I've got a couple of notes up here so I can know which up next. Right. Where are we? So, will Ukraine war drag on or move towards peace? Can real pressure be applied to Russia by Trump? Now, of course, we've got so much else going on. We could talk about Gaza and the rest of it too, but I can only limit it to a certain number of topics today. But you know, in many respects, the Ukraine war has been kind of pushed out of the news because it's old news in so many ways. It just seems to go on and on and on. And other conflicts, particularly Gaza and Iran, have dominated headlines. And they're all kind of interlinked in many ways. But this is a particularly difficult war, isn't it? This is a war of attrition. This is a war that will drag on and on. I said early on that I felt it would be much longer war than ever expected. And when they first moved into Kiev right at the very start of the war, I said, that's not the end of it. The Ukrainians are going to fight back with a fury no one expected. And it happened, and it's dragged on, and it's become a bit like, almost like the First World War, hasn't it? Where people are actually in trenches and digging in. And you can't really use nuclear bombs to solve the issue because it would make matters even worse. So all it can do is drag on and on. And although Ukraine at the moment is on the back foot, and I suppose in some respects losing it, I actually feel their fortunes are going to reverse. Lost my camera a minute. I feel their fortunes are going to reverse and revive very soon. That's because it's so hot in here, actually. So Russia, well, I suppose we should say Putin, really, because it is Putin's war, not really Russia's war. It's Putin's war. It's his way of staying in power, isn't it? He can't afford to lose this war. He can't afford to lose it because you have to have war to keep people in check at home. It's just like in George Orwell's 1984. Perpetual war happened between one continent and another. And even if you switch wars, your ally becomes your enemy again. You still have to keep it going because war was necessary to distract people from the troubles at home. And here we do a similar thing. You know, when Keir Starmer here in the UK has troubles at home, he goes off and becomes a foreign diplomat, you know, because you stop people thinking about the fact that, you know, the economy's about to go down the pan. Let's go and see if we can make it look good with other countries. You know, they always do this. All politicians and all countries do this thing, but we never see through it, do we? We never say, oh, we're in trouble, you know. But I foresee Russia's economy soon really slipping bad. It's done all right so far because it's got round sanctions and things like that. But my sense is that very soon, I predict we're going to see a complete change in the dynamics of Russian economics, and we're going to see Russia slide big time soon. And that will affect the war in Ukraine. And Trump's recent sort of attempts, you know, at things. Trump's very angry because he wants he wants to see himself as the peacemaker, but he has supported heavier arms shipments and tougher sanctions, and I think this could also add pressure on Russia because Trump don't like it when someone says yes, we'll do a deal and then does the opposite. That's really bad news. If we've done a deal, that's a deal, right? Because he's thinking deals all the time and he's business minded, and Putin's step back. You don't do that in business. You don't say we're going to do a deal, we shake hands, and then you do something different. So I think we're going to see a big change in the fortunes there. And I see the new drones that Ukraine are introducing rapidly. It's going to shift the balance too. And once once Ukraine's position has strengthened and Putin's position has weakened, then I think a deal could be made. But it has to be made as if Putin is seeing himself as the winner, even though he's on the back foot and losing. I don't see Ukraine keeping all of its territory. I think there have to be a deal made on that. But I think a better and a decent enough deal could be found somehow. They always say a good deal is when both sides are unhappy, because then you've got a proper deal. You've got somewhere in between. And I feel that Putin's going to try a clever trick too, a little bit the same as like Netanyahu did, in that I feel Putin's going to suggest and nominate. I predict that Putin will nominate Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. It's almost laughable, but I feel it's going to be give an interesting incentive. Not going to happen this month or next month, but it will be there. It will be there. It will be part of a kind of a subtle sort of deal. And so that's pretty much it. One other one that someone asked about, they were talking about the floods in America particularly, and do you see more of them? Well, there has been more of them, and there could be more of them because already they've had a second lot of floods there, I believe. But interesting about that is that one of the NAADI oracles, there's a number of NAADI oracles that are used for world events, and there's some of them are called the Jiva NAADI, and some of them are called the Maha NAADI, and there's an awful lot of fake ones out there as well. So it's very difficult to know what's what with them. And I am trying to track down again another NAADI that I can use for this, because my friend, the NAADI that I had access to, I couldn't get to now because the person died. But there's still more out there, and but one of them said that Europe would have massive heat waves in 2025. And yes, it's happened. I'm sweating here with the lights on and everything. It's a very hot day here in the UK. Most unusual. We have rain mainly, as you know. And then it says that after those heat waves, Europe will experience massive floods that would flood Europe. So this isn't strictly my prediction, but this is a prediction from the NAADI oracles that say that we're going to have flooding ahead. It wouldn't surprise me with the amount of heat building up, and certainly friends in Italy have said to me that they're suffocating with heat, and of course in Greece and all of southern Europe have been struggling really badly with this. So floods ahead, I'm afraid, with that. So I suppose it's right to have on a news. I do next week's news today, or the news before it happens, and I suppose the weather forecast is kind of part of it, isn't it? Now, right. We got a little bit more time to pick up a few more things. Right, so you're mainly discussing between yourselves, guys. Okay, terribly hot in Madrid. Yeah, I've heard it's absolutely ridiculous over there. Well, actually, Ireland's something that, again, problem with Ireland, you've got exactly the same problems that we've got here in the UK, really. I have to click on it again to get rid of it, because otherwise I can't catch you again. You've got similar problems to us in the UK and Ireland. I mean, you've got overwhelming immigration. You've also got a housing crisis there. I believe you've got problems with your assets and things like that, and simultaneously you've got problems with the economy, because a lot of the big the big companies that have been over there finding sanctuary and getting special sort of tax deals, tax breaks by going to Ireland, have been told by Trump, you've got to come home. We're getting the same problem here. We're getting exodus from the stock exchange, the London Stock Exchange. We could see a lot of big companies in the coming months leave and shift over probably to America more than Frankfurt. And Ireland's got exactly the same problems. So unfortunately for Ireland at the moment, it's going to be a very big period of upheaval. And I see Ireland ultimately breaking from Europe. Not yet, but it will break from Europe, because its advantages of being in Europe will become less and less. And I have said, actually, in the much, much longer term, I think Ireland will become part of the United Kingdom. Rather than the United Kingdom split up, I think we will become the Emerald Isles, all of us, because This is a long way ahead. This is long way ahead, because I feel that the old problems that there were between Ireland and England and this will fade into the past. We're talking a long way ahead here, but ultimately there will come one nation again. One nation voluntarily, not one trying to take over and abuse the other as the British did, but a proper connection between people, and even ultimately also having a much stronger merger as well with American influences there. I'm talking long time ahead here, not a long way ahead. So this is something I feel is going to be very, very important in the future. Now, some of you have also where have we got? I've got a couple. Yeah. So what do you predict about the Epstein files not being released? Donald Trump can order this. He's covering up for powerful people. Well, in my predictions for 2025, I have said already that I felt that in this 2025, the Epstein files are going to be explosive. Now, right at the moment, the Epstein files, I've kind of had the lid put on it. It's just like we can't open it up at the moment for some reason. I mean, there's been political moves probably on every side of politics to keep it quiet, because I'm not so sure. I don't think Trump is particularly cited in them in quite the same way that some people might think. But I think some of his team are in there. And I see major stuff with the Clintons in the Epstein files as well. There is a lot in there that could really bring down politics, but problem is both sides. And they're all keeping quiet at the moment because it's too disruptive, it's too destructive for it to be released. I feel that Trump's got it in his mind that this will be released when he comes to the end of his term in politics. He wants to try to do a third term. I've spoken about that. But even if he doesn't, and JD Vance is going to come in as the next potential Republican candidate, that might be the perfect time to release this when Vance isn't in those files, for example. So who knows what's in there? Can a psychic really see who's in there? I just see lots of politicians in there. I feel there's just I dare not name them one at a time, because I think I could be up to all sorts of problems and I could get my channel damaged by it. But I feel also that Harry's in there as well somewhere too. I know we've had all the problems with the royal family over here getting involved in all the things that go on in these smutty sort of things, and in the all the stuff that's going on there. But I just feel it's not over yet. We're going to see it explode. I'm being told that come September, the Epstein files will be opened and all will be revealed. And it will be a Pandora's box of information, and it will damage politics on all sides, and particularly the Democrats. So that's my thoughts about that. I'm not going to answer this question, but it is such an interesting one, isn't it? She is a very unusual looking woman, isn't she? Yes, it was his school teacher, I believe, wasn't it? Anyway, I'm not going to answer that one. And a lot of people have been talking about the potential earthquakes in Japan. Now, there was and I went on one of the shows in Japan, and we were talking about, could there be a huge sort of eruption south of Japan? I felt there would be. And I know that not necessarily me, but some of them have predicted, particularly in these manga comic predictions, which kind of caught the imagination of the Japanese over there. But they've said, there's this huge earthquake going to be happening in July, I think. So we're expecting it any time now. So people have been very, very worried about this. Timing is the difficult thing, but I feel there will be some huge quake off Japan, and I feel there's all around the Pacific Rim, and I still think that this year is going to be a year where we're going to get major earth shifts, as it were, both in volcanic and in earthquakes. I am concerned about Vesuvius too. I mean, I've got property in Italy. Vesuvius could affect that as well. I'm concerned about Vesuvius as well here in 2025. And I'm concerned also about shifts in the Pacific Ring. I feel it's all ready to shift. Often these things correspond, I think, with what's going on in human consciousness. When we have wars and things like that, I think the earth starts to shake. I think the earth is like a mother, and it worries for its children, and it shudders at what goes on in our world. Edgar Cayce believed these things, and they say that it's written into what's hidden beneath the pyramids in Egypt. When we open the doors for the great libraries that lie underneath Egypt, said Cayce, I believe, then that will be the time when there'll be the great earth shifts. He saw it as a complete shift of the poles, which can happen every 11,000 years or so, the magnetic shift of the poles. But I think we are ahead for something like that, unfortunately. But I'll announce it when I feel if I feel it's due. I kind of get a feeling of these things, but I think we've got a lot of that ahead. Sorry, I don't like giving bad news, but you asked the questions. So what can I do, and so that's my answer to that. Okay, so anyway, I think we're coming to the end now. Hopefully we've covered a lot of the things that you wanted to ask about. I'm sure there's hundreds of them here too that we could question. Lots of really interesting questions, actually. Lots and lots of questions coming up. So do, particularly if you're a patron or if you're a member, a YouTube member, please do keep seeding me new questions, because I obviously can't trail back everything getting questions like this, but there's some good stuff. I do like to open it up for those of you who support the channel and give you priority on the questions asked. And so go and post a few on the Patreon pages, please, guys, and go and post a few on the YouTube members pages. And if you've not become a member or a patron, do have a look at the description below, and have a look there at the patrons. You could become a patron, and it does help the channel tremendously. Helps me to make more videos, and because obviously my time is split between doing videos and doing private readings, so I can only donate so much time. I'd like to do one every day for you, really, if that was the possibility. So the more in time, I hope to do that. So the more you support the channel, the more it will help me to make more of these videos. Okay, again, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you... I was going to give one other shout out too, actually. I wanted to give a quick shout out at the end to Psychic News. I don't know if any of you read Psychic News. Victor Meldrew used to read Psychic News, actually, but they've been struggling a lot lately, and it would be really nice if a few more people started to read it, because it's a magazine but published under the umbrella of spiritualism, that basically will put psychics in touch with what's going on in the psychic world. So where do I get my news about the psychic world? I usually look in Psychic News, and it is worth a look. So I'll put a link in the description to this video, and so you can go and get your next copy. I see there's some stuff in there this month about Uri Geller. He contributes to it as well. Certainly an interesting stuff about what's going on in the ghosts and what's happening on television. And any psychics that get interested in wanting to be on UK or American TV, that's first announced in Psychic News, because that's where the producers go to look for people. So yeah, it's quite an interesting magazine, particularly for other psychics and people that are interested getting a little bit deeper into the psychic world and know what's going on. Okay, so shout out for Psychic News. Not getting paid for that. It's just that I feel I want to help them a little bit. So have a look in the description below about that as well. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Great to see you. See you again soon. Bye for now. If you look back at my earlier predictions, and in particular the predictions I made on the newspaper, the Sun's website, I did actually say on there, the actual words were, there will be a flu epidemic linked to bioterrorism.
And my thoughts are that Liz Truss will make it to the final, be the next PM. I think she will actually have a final battle between her and Rishi Sunak. We've not seen the full end of Boris Johnson either, I tell you. But Rishi Sunak actually will eventually, I feel, be the next leader of the Conservatives. So I think there's going to be a few conflicts that Britain's going to be drawn into, including, I think Russia is going to take some moves against Ukraine. I think she will make it past her platinum jubilee, which comes up this year. But I think after that, we'll see a sudden and quick deterioration in the Queen's health. And I think we might lose the Queen towards the end of 2022. There's going to be a huge backlash from over the Netflix programs and screening, because I feel it comes out at a bad time. Charles will come to become King Charles, but his reign, I feel, will be short. I said that Prince Charles would be hit by an egg. And of course, there it is, all in the press today. Marvellous person she is. She does something extraordinary that could even put her life a little bit at risk with the way she did this. Okay.
Is there something also there that's not being spoken about fully? Did they also discover something with Kate that wasn't quite right?
A huge swarm of people knocking the doors of Europe and America. And I feel that the Ukraine conflict is going to be a kind of a grinding conflict that goes on and on. I also feel that there's something going to happen in the Middle East as well. I feel as if there's going to be a sudden and unexpected thing happen in the Middle East. So I feel they're going to take it into their own hands, and I feel we're going to get a strike from Israel. This is going to be one of the significant things in 2023.
I've said it before and I say it again. I feel Israel, with the help from the USA, will strike the Iranian nuclear facilities.
I said that there would be an earthquake that would shake New York.
At this time, I've been sensing that for a while that there's going to be a big earthquake of some sort. And this could well come up during April period.
I'm seeing a bridge collapsing, actually the whole infrastructure of it going.
I predict something very dark happens to President Joe Biden. He's been pulled from power, sacked, as it were, and quite close to the election time. But I kind of sense it's more to do with illness, perhaps, senility, and people stopping him because of that. So it could even be that a new candidate will run for the presidential nominee. I predict that Trump will win the November 2024 election. And I feel very strongly that the black vote is going to move towards Trump. See him as a sort of a bit of a cool guy. I can't see Trump being put in jail despite what they're throwing at him. I can't see a jail sentence with him. But I get the feeling one of the candidates has an attempt on the candidate's life. Could there have been a plan to assassinate either him or Trump, perhaps? There's going to be an assassination attempt on Trump, I think. That will fail, but he might maybe get wounded or something like that. A hit or attack on our airplanes, on passenger flights or even freight flights. Because I also had at the similar time, I was also seeing this image of helicopters on fire as well.
I seem to see like the west of America on fire and the east of America underwater, huge winds. And I actually saw, just like we had a major problem here in the UK where a tower block went up on fire, I see a tower block deserted